Okay, in this video, I'm going to announce a few things, and not any specific order, but they'll be very random. A lot of these are just simple truths that most people within society can't, or should I say, find it very difficult to accept. But this is the reality of what things are. Okay, first off, the whole, the whole situation. The truth number one, a lot of us are aware of this, but unfortunately, there are some people who are not. You cannot trust anything you hear on the media. You can't. You can, of course, we got to keep an eye on things that they do put out there, because well, it's the only way we're going to be able to find the actual direction of where they're trying to do and what they're trying to fool people with. The other thing, school it's not there to educate you. It's there to basically program you. That's what it is. And they've used it, they use the education system as a basically as like a plant or a factory for programming people for quite some time. They've utilized different program scenarios through let me cut this off. They utilize different program scenarios through peer pressure and through different connections with different individuals with different personalities. As a result, you have some people who tend to be, they got this whole concept of cool people and uncool people. I'm here to tell you, well, there's no such thing. There is no such thing as a cool person, and there's no such thing as an uncool person. What there is a such thing is that people tend to be more favorable towards other individuals rather than and tend to be not as favorable towards the others. They treat each other differently all through the same situation from time to time again, and that same situation is favoritism. They find something about an individual that just sticks, and then they just allow that to be the person they hang around with just about every day. People who they either on the same wavelength with, or just on the same level, or just got the same element, however, whatever you would call it. It's just stuff like that. Now, but based off my situations and all the experiments that I've done and looked into when it came to the social experiments that I've done, it's just been the same thing. People tend to be more favorable towards the whole, and this is, I'm going to be very blunt about this. Just spend all your money on random crap that you don't need, stuff to just show off with, to dress up something, to try to just present yourself off as something that you're not, and not just do it any kind of way, but also do it in a manner that is fitting towards the image of what the masses are so called approving of. This means not being yourself. This means not trying to stand your ground and having some self-respect. This just means lowering yourself to just whatever these these drones or robotic zombies or in human flesh see as the social norm. And this is just, it just goes, it's just like the old saying goes, it's like you either flow their way, or it's either you're flowing their way or the highway. Basically, it's the type of attitude that they have with this. Now, when they have a person who doesn't want to basically participate in these types of idiotic stunts of theirs, well, that person tends to be treated as more of an outcast, basically someone who just doesn't want nothing to do with that, and it's because they don't see it as normal. They don't want to be anything but themselves. They're more comfortable being themselves than they were comfortable being changed into something that they're not. And this is just a natural human emotion that they have, that most people have, that they don't realize. It's natural to want to to protect yourself from stuff like that, because you're not trying to be changed. You're comfortable as you are. You basically go up to one location, and you're told to just go there for educational value. You're not told to go there to try to impress random people who you don't know. And then if you got enough common sense, you would also understand that a person could say the exact opposite of what they think. So that's another thing. And I'm very grateful for my grandfather, because most of my common sense came from both him from what he taught me and stuff like that, and everything that I've had to deal with. I gotta admit, that guy definitely had some knowledge on him. I've learned some knowledge from other people as well over the years, but at the same time, I've saw their flaws too as a result. But I never ever adapted any of their flaws. I just saw some of the benefits that some of the benefits of what they were doing, what they had seen in reality, and I just used that to my advantage. Started doing the same, and then I actually started to find life being a tad bit more easier. However, other truths that people find very difficult to accept. The whole situation with race. People find it very difficult to accept the fact that race is not a factor in anything, and it's just the fact that this is just a simple topic that has just been perpetuated and overused over the years to where it's just been heightened unnecessary amounts of aggression in order to meet either political in order to meet make ends meet of political values or power structured values of foreign interest, foreign and also domestic interests, such as the media. The media twists the narrative to do what? Piss people off. The whole situation and everything that gets perpetuated and everything that just gets shown, it's just a complete farce just to control the masses. They use stuff that pisses people off to basically manipulate them. And the real enemy is the one who's basically doing the manipulation. I don't care what nationality you are, that will always be everybody's enemy. It's the one who uses these types of things to manipulate the masses. And another thing that a lot of people don't like to accept, myself included, is that sometimes, we find an enemy within ourselves, especially with this technology out there. We have to, you got to really, level yourself to where you're thinking more of what your heart than just your brain, because they're beaming frequencies on you from time to time constantly, and as a result you can't even trust your own mind from time to time, and you run the risk of even causing problems with people, with different things and all that. And the same applies for all of us, considering the fact that we're all being tormented by this on the daily, especially at night. You got to learn to be able to fight the urges that are heated to you. And something, look, the main things that I have tried that has been very effective of killing this stuff off and getting it out of my system is both the recipe, the anti-nano bucket, and the Rife belt. Those three things have worked wonders. Nah, anything else as far as borax, borax does do its job. It does do its job in killing the stuff off, but the most effective things I have used is both the anti-nano bucket and the Rife belt and the recipe. You guys already heard me talk about that recipe so many times. But those are the major things to use. But other than that, besides that, there's also another thing, if I'm not mistaken, and you know what? Forget it, because it's already just gone. It's already gone. They'll do random stuff like that to mess with you if you are being hit with this stuff. But anyway, I'm going to move on from there. In fact, I need the shield. Put this thing on. Okay. So, other than that, there's like other situations out there as well that people find it hard to believe. The fact of the matter with the food industry, as well as the World Health Organization, the World Health Organization of the United States is not in the best interest of the people. A lot of people don't seem to like to understand that truth, and it's because they simply still go out for just about anything. At times like this, you don't want to be eating fast food. At times like this, you don't want to be consuming any type of junk food, any type of just any kind of food at all. Half the genetic modified organism of food-based food products is getting very bad, because now I'm seeing something that they also are trying to create genetically modified animals. Just as a prime example, fish. they came out with this genetically modified salmon. Now, I don't have the video on hand currently, but you can easily research this for yourself to see it. Now, what happens when you put something like that in the habitat of other fish just like it? The problem starts to begin. And now you no longer have decent, actual, normal fish. Now you got contaminated fish. Some people mentioned that they already put this out there. Whether they did or whether they didn't, I don't know. I don't know. But the whole situation with the food, the fact that we gotta really cut a lot of stuff out of our daily intake, that has become more apparent considering all of this tyranny that's going on today. People, another truth that people find hard to believe is that there's the fact that there's no hope in elections. Look, I'm telling you something from I'm just gonna say what I've said before many times. The same system that creates these solutions is the same system that created the problems. Okay, whatever is out there that they got going on, it's just nothing more than a distraction, just so because they don't want the public to cause an uprising to really go after the people that need to be shut down. They don't want that. I mean, just look at how they reacted when so many people threatened to go straight up to Area 51. That was enough to get the entire news beast media outlet talking about it. And it costs a lot of money just to do a commercial. So you can only imagine how much money it would actually cost to do an entire news broadcast. One of the things they definitely don't want us to ever do is gather up, considering the fact that we'll have more of a profound structure to actually detox this poisonous substances out of our bodies. Not to mention any perpetrators who would try to even psyop that would obviously be outed out as a result. But that's just something some fellow TIs have trouble actually accepting. Now some TIs do understand that, but at the same time, you got to expect that there are gonna be perpetrators out there looking to being paid off just to try to ruin something. First off, when it comes to this situation, you cannot trust your own mind, okay? Especially when it's being beamed with frequencies, and especially when you're having falsified thoughts uploaded to your brain on the daily. When you actually detoxify yourself enough, you actually start to read these things as they're being uploaded to you. Therefore, you have more of a way of being able to tell that those are not your thoughts. Some people have more of a resistance than others to this stuff, and they're able to tell that it's not their thoughts right off the bat. It just depends, though, If you're a TI, this is another truth we all gotta accept, and sometimes I find this hard myself. You cannot be eating fast food at all, because any type of food that you order for, any type of food that you go to, or any kind of restaurant for, they are most likely going to mess with it. And I'm telling you, if you manage to get yourself free from this, you better abandon stuff like that all entirely, because they will try to pay somebody off to poison you. They will do this. The reality of this whole thing is that this is not this is technically not the land of the free. It's only the land that you're only as free as they allow you to think you're free. Of course, if everybody was entirely woke to this, they would immediately shut the operation down that is causing that. But you see, this is why they do these things, do all of this, this corruptive acts, both silently and in secret. They do that. They do these things where people are completely preoccupied with something else. By the time they catch on to whatever else is going on, they've already have started the next thing that they got planned. Everything, it just even right now, after the election ends, you best believe there's something else going on. There always is. For instance, has anybody else noticed that the rise in Amber Alerts? Because if I'm not mistaken, it hasn't just been, it's been pretty bad down here as far as in certain areas, but that's just to be expected. This is, it doesn't matter where you go though. Like this is a global thing. Just about within every country, within every state, they got disappearances happening. Now, these disappearances is definitely related to human trafficking. Problem is, the government is in connection with this. They are responsible for all of these factions that of within the system being structured as they are and doing the things that they do. So you got to ask yourself, how can we ever find, hope to ever find a good solution to help us and get justice when the exact system that's supposed to give us that justice is denying basically denying that justice and actually giving us the very opposite. Instead of giving us peace and equilibrium, they're giving us both chaos and corruption. You can't expect to find solutions like that from a system that doesn't want the best for you. That's just it. The only way stuff is really gonna be able to help anybody out as far as the people is concerned is the people themselves. But look at what's going on. People are all around you are consumed by greed, man. They do some of the most idiotic things you can possibly imagine. And half the stuff most TIs see, that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's probably stuff these perpetrators have done that we haven't, that we have absolutely no idea about. And when you see people like that, someone who's just giving themselves away like that for collateral and stuff like that they're not going to be able to take with them when they're dead. Like, dude, whatever they're buying with this crap, when you're dead, you can't take that stuff with you. You can't. I believe, God is a forgiving God, but there's certain boundaries with that. I believe people who just don't know like how far this stuff goes, I believe they do have the capacity to be forgiven. But people who are full knowledge of this whole thing that's going on and they're still complicit with it, I don't know about them. But in the end, that's God's decision what to do with them. At that point, with a person like that, that's really getting close to the whole term workers of iniquity there. One other truth is that most black folks, I take that back. Most individuals of my skin complexion find it difficult to accept the fact of the corruption within itself. The fact that we've got one another killing each other and one another just selling each other out and just basically destroying one another. This isn't corruption that's just coming from the outside. This is corruption coming from the inside of other individuals who look no different than us. It isn't just the same. The sooner we all accept that, the better, because this is the same situation that's happening to other races as well. It doesn't matter what the skin tone is. There is corruption within every race, killing and basically pillaging their own people. This is a global problem. It isn't signified and just basically just stranded with one section of the population or race. No, this is going on with everybody within every race. And unfortunately, those of us who just want to be at peace, who don't want to cause any problems, we end up being victimized by this tyranny. And what happens whenever we try to leave and go somewhere else? Well, if you try to leave and go somewhere else in the city, they'll just go right to you. Nobody can say that any target individual is crazy. Nobody can say that, because first off, it isn't just a coincidence that everywhere a target individual goes, there's always a problem. There's always something. There's always something just about every day. There's always something. If you live in a city, there's just so happens to always be a problem. There just so happens to be always an issue. There just so happens to be a problem with the police. There just so happens to be a problem with the random citizen. That is not a fucking coincidence. That is quite obviously perpetuated scenarios. That nobody, I don't care who says what, nobody goes through stuff like that every day without reason. And the reason is that obviously the corruption. And the fact is, we got way too many people in these neighborhoods complicit and just completely, just completely taken away by greed. They don't care, and it really it makes you ask the question: people, how, if people are that consumed by greed, can they really care for their own families? Just seeing what they do. I mean, look at how far this has gone. I mean, the Kanika Jenkins case. Look at what people already suspecting her own mother signed her up into that stuff. And it isn't just her. It's the whole. It's basically any family member that was close enough to that just so happened to just be kicked back and just relaxing as a result. But don't threat just on that. There's other families with similar scenarios like this, man. It's been the same thing for years. Any situation that dealt with stuff like this is pretty obvious. Now, me as a target individual, first off, I don't see myself dating anytime soon when it comes to this stuff, and I don't see myself, especially not bringing any children into this world, because damn, I'm gonna be damned if I ever let them have to deal with this. It's just not gonna happen. And I know there's a lot of people who feel the same way. Dude, there's no way. If this is supposed to be like the end of times, there's no way I would do that to anybody. Like, this, just no way, man. Uh-uh. If that ain't convincing enough, like, you got these people who are in positions of power saying they got bunkers. Now, think about that. They've got bunkers, right? So, what do these perps have? I bet you they can't afford anything like that. I don't care how much of that salary they're making. I don't believe that they're gonna have anything like that. It's like they're so infatuated with themselves. It doesn't matter whether they're a street perp or an office perpetrator. It doesn't matter. It doesn't, because in the end, they're gonna be abandoned once whoever they're working for is satisfied with whatever they got. They're gonna be cut loose. And it just doesn't make to me. It just doesn't make no sense. They're just that. Maybe they're just that naive. Maybe they're just that far gone. But then I remember there are people who are being threatened into this. So there's that too. There's people who probably wouldn't even want to do this, but they're being forced into it. Saying either you do this or they'll start attacking you too as a result. And it's because of that so many people suffer. It's because people don't want to speak out or speak up, that they don't basically the stuff doesn't really happen. And people who do want to speak up, they end up disappearing. You want to know why they disappear? It's because they can't afford an uprising like that. They can't. The only way we're gonna ever have an uprising is if we ever decide to gather up. That's just the best advice I can possibly give for the target individuals, because you can't trust being in these neighborhoods. You can't trust being in the city altogether, unless there's a TI group in the city. But honestly, there's probably going to be like constant. Well, I don't know about constant harassment, because technically you got when you have a witness to that crap, it's much different. It's a whole lot different that way, because someone else can testify as a witness to it versus you being on your own. It's technically different. But if you know what you're doing, you can easily, expose them, like, some of the footage that you all have seen he uploaded. Other truths that we got going on. The fact that people, like, dude, I'm just dumbstruck at how just how gone a lot of some of these individuals are. And I can't call them people at this point, because, like, they're controlled. They're just mindless, controlled individuals who are just fully, in with the system. They just don't care. As long as they get paid, they don't care who dies. As long as they get paid, they don't care who has to suffer. The only thing going in their minds is when they get paid, and how much, and as long as it's not them. That's it. They're such idiots that they're supporting an agenda that's basically structuring things to where they can easily just take away You know, if you're basically have a salary or anything like that, they can just immediately wipe the whole thing dry, but from a push of a button. This is what they're supporting. And it really goes to show you, what the hell guarantee do you have that they won't ever turn these weapons on you? What that word is? Are you sure about that? What, a contract? How many contracts have been broken every now and then? How many words have been broken every now and then? What if, because judging from the looks of it, the people who are even bigger threat to them is the people they hire, dude. Them hiring people on the inside is a bigger threat than any TI who was just speaking out from some of the stuff they researched. That's a bigger threat because that's a person who knows names. That's a person who knows faces. And they're in support of this system. Who do you if it ever gets to a situation to where they get their way completely, who do you think is going to be the first ones to go? The ones who know too much. The people who they can't trust. This whole thing has been structured, dude. The fact that they hit their own people with these weapons and they infect them with this stuff, it's already proof enough that they don't. If you are a perp and you are basically laced with this crap, that's already proof enough they don't fucking trust you. Okay? I'm just calling that off as it is. And some of these individuals get super cocky and just go off and do these things. But at the same time, fellow TIs, you can't trust any of it, because how do you not know that that person's not just being controlled, and that's actually the mindset of the people who have been attacking you all this time? And that person's just just a victim caught with their own mindset being twisted against their will. This whole thing has endless possibilities, man, and so many loopholes in it, as well as just so much suffering in the middle of just everything. There's no telling how many of the families have been destroyed from this, but I'll tell you this much. Whether you're in the city, the suburbs, or even in any country at all, they're all using their people as guinea pigs for scientific research without any consent. And they're doing this, raking in money for it, and people are dying as a result. And people are keeping quiet about it. I purposely showed that situation with the Kenneka Jenkins case, and I know my family does watch these channels. I'm just going to call that out as it is. Look, first off, and I'm not saying any names, but this is what happened with that case. People who were basically in with that case, and when it got to the people are still talking about that. So I want that to be understood, because this isn't just a warning to my own folks. This is a warning to everybody else's families too, who may be complicit with this bullshit. The people who were closest in on that, they started getting, so many people started looking into that case that it got to a point to where they started making new targets. Basically, they started making new targets. Certain people they had killed, and certain people they just went after with these machines. And they convinced, these idiots who do this to people convince themselves this is enough to keep the story quiet and, nobody talking. That's not going to happen. People are still going to talk about it, and people are still going to mention it, and people are still going to remember it. And the more you see, this has been their common flaw. They've done this so many times that it's starting to catch up with them now. More and more people are waking up to the fact that DEW weapons, directed energy weapons, are being used against the masses. In so many different ways. We're seeing so much evidence out there that's coming out that people who are just speaking out saying this is happening. Now's the time to wake up, because something? What the fuck happened is what my question is. Not the fact that people are, I'm happy the fact that people are coming out, but I'm like, why now? Why not several years back? Why? Do they have any idea how many people, out of all these people who have called and targeted individuals either crazy or schizophrenic or just mentally ill, do they have absolutely no idea how many people lost their lives and their livelihoods, their families? Do they have absolutely no idea how many people ended up killed from this stuff? And they laugh it off as like it's just some sick joke, as if it's not a big deal. At least not until their own life, becomes put on the, basically becomes threatened. Oh, then everything gets serious then, right? But why does it take shit like that for people to get serious? And I mean, those arrogant pricks who just don't care about anybody else until their own life has become threatened. Why is it like that? Why don't they feel anything for anybody else? That same desperation that you have when you're in a position like that to basically want to live and want to not be in that position that you're in. That's what all those other people who are suffering that you're laughing at, that's what they feel every single time when they have their lives messed around with. They feel like that every single time, not knowing when it's going to be the end. And the constant death threats, the constant subliminal messaging, the constant frequencies, the constant gaslighting, it all becomes way too much, especially if you're going through workplace mobbing. I know how bad that can be. I know very much so. You have to fight just to keep a damn job around a bunch of paid off idiots who are just buying into this whole mess. And it's like their only sole thing to do is just find out what you can do to sabotage this motherfucker. Find out what you can do to sabotage this motherfucker. Find out what you can do to set him up. Find out what you can do to get him to lose his job. This, that, and the other thing. This is what is going through their minds 24/7, and they laugh this shit off until they're put in a position that they don't want to be in. Then they get scared. Then they get worried. I wonder what God would say about someone like that. I truly would like to know, because that's a person who doesn't show if a person like that can't show compassion to someone else who feels the same, who would feel the same way in a scenario like that, but they feel the need to just laugh it off, laughing at someone else's suffering like that. How can a person like that ever care? How can a person like that ever truly care for their own kin? How? I just don't see it. And that's one of many reasons why I refuse to get in a relationship in this lifetime. I refuse because, dude, this stuff can't be trusted. You got some people who will call themselves a TI, but in reality, they could very well be a perp. I'm not going to deny the possibility. Okay? I'm not going to do that at all. There is a possibility that some of those individuals can be perpetrators. And it's also a possibility that they can very well be a targeted individual. But I'm at that point where I'm not finna sit there and focus my mindset on that. If whoever person is a perpetrator, they'll eventually show their true colors. Then that's it. You just got to be prepared to have the evidence on handy when and if that happens. But if you sit there and try to figure out, if is this person a perp, is that person is a perp, you're gonna drive yourself nuts, trying to basically figure that out. So my recommendation for that: don't overexert yourself for petty stuff like that, because that's just what they want you to do. You're gonna know for a fact if a person is a perpetrator, but also it's important to basically deprogram yourself from this stuff, because we're human beings. We're not gonna agree with everything. Okay, we're not gonna always see eye to eye with things. We're gonna have our spats. We're gonna have our disagreements. We're gonna have moments to where we're not comfortable with certain things. This is just natural. We can't mix the natural with the unnatural. And what's unnatural is what these psyops that they run to try to get yourself focused and fixated on these different tactics, to just make that assumption that just about everything that you see is on purpose. You can't view it, I'm sorry, but you can't view it like that, because there are coincidences too. There just so happens, you got to remember, there was a time where you were also not aware that this program existed, right? So you must understand that there are still people out there who still do not know that this program exists. If you were at a point where you didn't know this program existed, there are other people who are still there that don't know that this exists. Now then, in other situations, as far as I'm concerned, there's the fear tactics that they use. Don't be intimidated by that. No, don't. If you want to know what a good defense mechanism against that is, get yourself an audio recorder. They want to talk trash, well, you got to jot down it as evidence. Always basically do this with your audio recordings. Announce your current location and the time and date. Okay? After you do that, then that's about it. Just record everything that's happening and being said in the area. Camera glasses work well too. I'd say use camera glasses because if you try using your phone, these perpetrators are just going to use their kids as a shield. Okay? They're going to use that as a shield. And this is the prime example with the McDonald's incident that I recorded. Because as soon as I started, they sent their kids, their teenage age kids, towards me to basically stir some stuff up. But before it was them acting out, it was the staff of McDonald's, and I even caught that on the audio log too. It was the staff. I basically what I did, and most of you already know the story about this, but for those who don't, I'll mention it again. Um, I wanted to make a video announcing something. They sent a perpetrator to basically interrupt the whole speech that I was putting out for the video. I purposely went outside away from everybody to make the recording. I didn't want to capture nobody's voice, so that's what I did. What did I do? They sent somebody out there to talk over the video. Loudly, obnoxiously, might I add. So, I leave from that side and I go over to the other side. I'm still recording as this is happening. And now I understand I can't be on the side of the building because the drive-through is there and there are cars pulling in and pulling out of that area. So I have to go a little bit towards the edge of the parking lot. Now, there's a group of individuals, look like teens, all the way towards the front near the street, okay? First off, the car nearby me, there's no way, I don't know those people, so there's no way I would have ever known that that car belonged to them. So, as a result, they start coming towards me or whatever. One of them already knew what the whole thing was, and I simply basically walked back and told him, "Get the f away from me." Didn't even want to talk to him. I just immediately cut it off. I'm not even going to hear your explanation. I'm not going to hear anything from you. So, as they take off, I recorded that, and then I go over to the other side because they basically looped around the building, and they obviously parked. They must have thought I stopped recording at some point. No, I recorded that entire thing. They didn't want that footage uploaded at all, people. They were planning on having me assaulted for that evidence. So that most likely would have happened if I hadn't been as smart as I was that time. And I made damn certain to have the cops basically escort me back to my home, right? And I made certain I have everything recorded in my defense. I did. They tried to pull the switcheroo to where I would go into the squad car. I said no. I'm comfortable walking. I don't even want to be in your damn squad car because I don't trust either one of you. I don't. They weren't happy about that. But before it even came up to all of that, when it came to the first confrontation, it was at a point to where I already knew what it was with the family, and I already knew what it was with their kids. I wasn't buying any of that crap. I told all of them I don't trust a single one of you, period. And I'm going over here, minding my business. First off, I don't trust any of this stuff. And as far as I know, that whole night, that whole situation, as I was uploading that video, that first video, actually both, to tell you the truth, was an entire psyop. The entire time I was just being psyoped, constantly perpetuating of different scenarios, and it's just like I didn't fall for it. And it got to the point to where I was just done talking to the guy. But you know, I had to. It was to force me to basically get a response. But what do you? But think about it though, right? You tell somebody that you're not comfortable being around them. You're not trying to fight them. You're not trying to cause any problems. But the person still shows up and still goes towards you, right? This is something that a lot of target individuals go through a lot. And these idiots will go as far as getting into your face. They will try something like that from time to time just to force your hand. It could either force you to slap the hell out of them. It could force you to basically punch them dead in the dead on in the face. It could be, if it's a tactic that they try to use in order to get you to assault them, so that they can turn around, say and lie, and basically lie and pose you off as the aggressor. Don't fall for this. Not to mention, think about it. That's a minor. That's a minor trying to fight an adult. It didn't even matter. It didn't even have to just be him and his buddies. It could have just been him, and that would have already been a problem there. They kept sending him towards me, hoping that I would basically assault him, but I didn't do it. They had the cops on standby near the pharmacy area prior to where I was headed. So this shit was already basically set up before I even showed up in the area. This is why being in the city is not a good thing, man, because they have a lot of people who they can just pay off to do stupid stuff like this. But never mind about me, man. Like, scenarios like that are happening to many different other people out there every day. And it's just to completely fuck up their lives, to make it more miserable than it is. And it's just like, why in the hell did it take it so long for people to come out with all this information and just own up to it? And then I started to realize something, right? People were being fooled for quite a while. When I tried to make I tried to be more adult about the situation. I decided, something, maybe these trolls out there, maybe they're misunderstanding the situation, and they don't know any better. So I tried talking to one. I'm not giving any names out, but if you've seen the Mischievous M channel, you know who exactly what I'm talking about. So I decided to basically try to, have a decent conversation with that person. And, saying I got some evidence that you probably didn't see. Maybe, you just were given the wrong idea about everything, but they don't want to see it. They're fully compliant with all of it. And they just don't care who's dying, who's getting hurt. And the only thing that they see is that just as long as it's not them, that's it. They could care. They could give two shits about anybody else but themselves. Nobody asked for this. Nobody asked for any of this. And all of a sudden, we're just denied to ever just live our lives in peace by a group of people who just wants to just torment the hell out of us, and just miraculously makes the decision, no, you need to suffer. You need to basically be completely, just completely miserable. That's your life from now on. Who the fuck are they to decide that? I don't give a damn how much money these people have. I don't give a fuck how much power they have. I don't care. I don't. One thing I see the truth is that God is the main entity that's, the main thing that's going to save us out of this hellhole. Because that's basically what this realm has become, nothing but hell. With all this evil, all this deceitfulness, all this unbalancedness that's going on, man, the poisoning of the food, the poisoning of the air, the poisoning of the water, the underhanded payoffs that they do to these people who just decided to just, go ahead and just fuck up somebody else's life, but don't ever give thoughts into the regards of anybody, how anybody else would feel. And you see, relationships aren't even as cracked up as they are either. I mean, yeah, I'm a MGTOW, but dude, what the fuck happened? Why the hell are relationships so fixated around money? And I'm gonna tell you why they're so fixated around money. It's because the government stepped in and decided that basically independent living was completely obsolete. It was no longer needed. So what people started doing is just decided to live off the system so much that most of the traits and most of the tactics that were used for independent living, I'm talking about basically gathering your own water and filtering it, not from the system. Harnessing your own electricity, not from the system, independent living. Growing your own food, independent living. Raising your own fucking kids, independent teaching, and passing on the same skills that your grandfather, that your mother and father passed on to you. Not being at a job from 9 to 5, but actually being able to be home and raising your kids, and not having to pay a complete stranger to raise your kids. Nobody can tell me that this whole structure situation is not it is normal. Nobody can say that because it's not. You got so much stuff going on, man. It's just you know what? I'm just curious what's next. What's next? Because judging from everything that's going on and everything that's happening, people are just accepting this dirty money, doing stupid stuff, like really stupid stuff. There have been people caught on film setting fire to restaurants, fast food joints, and stuff like that. All for these riots, and people have filmed them doing it, and they just did it without a second thought. They just walked up and did it and just walked away. There was two ladies of a different nationality within a BLM rally, basically writing on the walls. At this point, dude, I don't trust the group at all because I know who's funding what and I know who's perpetuating what. If anybody is actually rooting for the safety of their own people like that, you need to you need. I'm gonna tell you something. You need to exclude yourself from that group because the higher ups of that group is not looking out for the benefit of anybody but their own alignment of their pockets filled with money. That's it. They don't care whether someone dies, or someone gets beat up or raped. They don't give a fuck about that. Okay, they don't. That's just this cold-hearted truth. That's just it for what it is. You can take it or leave it, but in the end, if you find out for yourself, just understand that that's what you are representing. And that's usually the worst way to find out. I know one thing though. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm done with this, dude. I'm just done with the system entirely. I don't want to work for the damn system. I don't want to depend on the damn system. The only thing I want is just to freaking just live life in peace. Not just in peace, but having my own well-being dependent upon just myself and my willfulness to put into it, and having whatever luxuries come my way pay off from the hard work that I've done, not from a corruptive system that's just designed to just torment and torture people, just just because of a conflict of interest. Not being a part of a fucking system that basically just decides to just throw people in the gutter just because. And I'm telling you, this bullshit's obviously for entertainment. They probably have some stupid ass entertainment network for all of this torture they do to people. They laugh amongst themselves when they watch stuff like this. but they piss their pants at the very moment that someone amongst them is willing to speak out about it. They piss their pants when situations become unfavorable to them. Can we really call people like that human? Can we really? Because I don't know. And can we even call them people for that matter? These are individuals who look no different than us, but they're just obsessed with hurting people. Even worse, they're obsessed with coming up with a crummy excuse just to hurt them, even if that means programming them to do stuff they would not normally do, and then using that as an excuse to get people on the agenda side to hurt them even more. And when people who were fooled by them starts to realize the truth, well, they get tormented too, saying, no, this person must suffer even more. Otherwise, you're going to end up paying for whatever exposure you do to the system. A forced in compliance. And yet these idiots put their trust in such a system like that. They made their decision. And I'm going to make mine. I'm not supporting no stupid system like this. These people who have foolishly sided with such a corrupted system like that, they're going to have to answer for the consequences of their actions eventually. Whether they take it seriously now or not is completely irrelevant, because in the end, it's all just the same. It's all still going to be the same. And no matter what, the way I see things is the fact that I'm not finna sell my soul for a materialistic item or funds that would basically just be useless to me and unusable after I'm dead. I find the fact that someone would make such a careless decision like that to be completely just dense, gone. Not even thinking of the consequences of things that could very well be. They don't think about that. They just go with whatever, and then they just say fuck the consequences, fuck all of this, and they just basically buy into this whole thing, and they don't realize. By the time they realize it, they're basically singing an entirely different tune, an entirely different one. But it's too late. You had your chance. You can warn them. You can try to convince them to change their ways, but it's not going to be easy, dude. It isn't. And it's most likely just in their nature to be like that, because they are not one of us. I hope everybody's having a wonderful evening. I hope you all are staying as safe as you can, because I know these attacks had to have been, they've been pretty severe for me, so I'm pretty certain it's been pretty severe for everybody else as well. As always, stay safe, stay strong.